So we're now going to analyse a sports performance. So the word analyse meaning pick something out from what you are seeing. So for example, you're going to watch the performance and identify something in relation to what's being asked. So in this situation, you've been asked to identify, so clearly state. Okay, so he's going to look at the performance and identify the joints being used and describe the movements taking place. Okay, so we've watched the performance, so the javelin throw. Now I'm going to watch it again, and I'm going to pause it, and working with your shoulder part, I'd like to again identify the joints which have been used in the performance and then describe the movements which are taking place.
Makarov, keihännettä paikalla, viimeinen heittokierros.
Okay, so if you identify there, so if you look at the performance there, working with your partner, I'd now like to identify the joints which are being used and the movements taking place. Okay, so working with your partner, okay, you should have identified there are many joints which have been used in this performance, and there are lots of movements taking place in joints. So starting at the top, we've obviously got the pivot joint, okay, which is at the neck, which is rotation. So as the performer goes clockwise or anti-clockwise using their neck to look where the throw has gone, that is an example of rotation at the pivot joint. If we go further down, you may have identified the ball and socket joint at the shoulder, and you may have identified that the arm as it comes out to create some balance, okay, is an example of abduction. Okay, again then, at the ball and socket joint of the shoulder, you may have identified again an abduction, but then you may have identified here, the hinge joint, you may have identified that there has been some flexion, okay, some flexion in terms of the angle decreasing, or as the performer throws a javelin, an example of extension. So lots and lots of examples of movement at the joint. Also then if we move down, okay, the body, okay, you may have identified something at the knee. Okay, so again, you may have identified slight flexion at the knee. Okay, again, decreasing the angle. And you may have identified as they extend their body, extension at the knee. Okay, and then again, moving further down the body, we could have had examples of plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. Again, remember, plantar flexion is when the toes are pointed, and dorsiflexion is when the toes then come up towards the body. Now, other areas you may have identified which are a little bit more smarter or in terms of showing greater knowledge, you may have identified that there is a gliding joint, okay, and at the gliding joint there can be abduction and adduction, okay, so the wrist moving as the javelin is thrown. You may also have talked about as well the condyloid joint, okay, and the fingers in terms of gripping a javelin, or even the saddle joint at the thumb, again creating grip upon the javelin throw. Now also what you could think about here is how those joints are working to create the performance, or in other words try to talk about or write about how the joints are allowing performance to occur. So hopefully you've identified some of those joints, hopefully you've been able to describe the movements in that movement, and hopefully you've got greater knowledge now of the types of synovial joints within the human body.